It is time now for Money Power Politics. Donald Trump has picked E.J. Antoni as the next commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Antoni is the chief economist of the Conservative Heritage Foundation, the same organization responsible for Project 2025. And no surprise, he's a longtime critic of the BLS. We're also following major news in the AI race. NVIDIA and AMD are expected to pay the U.S. government 15% of the money they earn from selling AI chips to China. That essentially makes the Trump administration a partner in their China business. Now, it is barely a month after the government gave NVIDIA the green light to do business in that market. I want to make it clear, this is absolutely not any form of business as usual. But it is not out of the ordinary for Donald Trump. He has shown time and again that he likes to control how others do business, or at least try to. Remember, he extracted a golden share when approving the U.S. Steel takeover. He has negotiated over $1 trillion in what he calls investments in the U.S., or he also calls them signing bonuses from the EU, Japan, and South Korea, though those countries might not see it how he does. Of course, he was calling for the CEO of Intel to lose his job, to resign. And now the president wants a 15% cut of all chip sales to China. This arrangement might not even be legal. But for any companies out there hoping to do business overseas, deals like this could become the new norm in the United States of America. Here to discuss, Bharat Ramamurthy, former National Economic Council Deputy Director, and Brendan Greeley, contributing editor for the Financial Times. Brendan, what do you make of this deal? A tax or a payoff?
I mean, like so much else that Donald Trump does, to start with, it's illegal, and then it also doesn't make any sense. I mean, the Constitution is very clear on this point. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. That's in Article 1, the article governing what Congress is supposed to do. So maybe that doesn't matter anymore. Maybe Congress is not involved in trade. But it's very clear that the way courts have interpreted that until this moment is that you cannot impose an export tax on an American company. So I don't know, maybe it's not a tax, or maybe the Constitution doesn't matter if we don't actually attempt to enforce it in any way. But beyond that, it's hard to figure out what sense this makes unless it's about dominance. So much of trade policy for Trump doesn't make any sense unless you think of it as a way to show fealty to Donald Trump. He wants to be able to say, I went to this company, this country, I pulled on the lever said they've got to pay me more money. That showed that they will do what I tell them to do. And that's exactly what this is. There are so many better ways to get tax revenue. The United States does not need that revenue. There are lots and lots of different ways to do this. To me, this is about Donald Trump showing that if you want to do business in America, I will extract a cost, and you will have to come to the White House and look me in the eye and make sure that everybody knows that you came to the White House and begged for this thing, and everybody will know that I took it from you.
Bharat, many people would say, not just MAGA supporters, we want to compete with China. We don't want to become China. But there's a new op-ed in the Wall Street Journal arguing that that is the direction we're headed, right? Telling businesses before you set foot out the door, before you cash that check, come to daddy because the government needs a piece of that.
Yeah, look, I agree with a lot of what Brendan said. The two things that people probably agree on most in Washington are, number one, that we have to outcompete China, and number two, that we need to win the AI race. And we were in a situation where there were export controls, there were restrictions on American companies selling these important AI chips to China because we thought it was important to maintain our lead in the AI race. Now Trump has reversed that in essence to get a negligible amount of revenue. Remember, this is projected to bring in maybe $2 billion of revenue. That seems like a lot. This is the same president that has provided trillions of dollars in tax cuts to corporations between his first term and second term. So this is a drop in the bucket compared to the revenue that he has foregone from corporations. So as Brendan said, it doesn't really make sense on the face of it. And I really think it's a troubling precedent, not only because of the constitutional issues, but are we really going to be jeopardizing our economic security and national security in order to generate a tiny amount of revenue? What's next? Are we going to sell military equipment to Russia if we get cut in by 10%? Are we going to sell military equipment to Iran, if we get our 10%, this is not a racketeering business that we're supposed to be running. We're supposed to be defending the national security and economic security of the United States. It's very clear to me that those are secondary considerations at best for Trump.
It sure sounds like it doesn't matter what the business is, as long as the White House or the government gets a cut. Let's talk about this new BLS commissioner, though, E.J. Antoni. What's your take, Brendan?
Well, he's an economist in the sense that in the 1950s in disaster movies, there was a scientist, and the scientist could explain everything, no matter what it was. So that's kind of what his job is. Most economists specialize. You and I know this when we've talked to economists for our reporting. Often, they'll specialize in labor or international trade, and that's where they'll do all their academic work. Antoni, since he's left his PhD, since he got his PhD, he went to the Heritage Foundation, and he just kind of writes about anything. It's not peer-reviewed. He doesn't publish. And I'm looking now at his list of publications. They're with the Heritage Foundation, and it's on everything. Trump's immigration reset is lifting wages. U.S.-Japan trade deal is a masterpiece. I don't know how you peer review masterpiece. Government broke the housing market. Powell put the Fed and taxpayers in the red. So his job has always been, since he got his PhD, to sort of say what it is that the Heritage Foundation needs him to say. That's not the kind of person, left or right, under Democratic or Republican presidents, who runs the BLS. That's not how this works. That's not the person who's in charge of collecting statistics. We know what the issues are with the BLS right now. One of the problems is they have lower response rates. Households and companies are not responding to surveys, which means survey data comes in a little late and it's not as accurate as it used to be. This is a problem that is well identified. We had a commission that was working on it. The Trump administration dissolved that commission on August 1st. There's a way to solve this problem, and we decided not to do it. And instead, we have an economist whose job is to say stuff for Trump, doing a thing that is highly technical that, even though he has a PhD, he's not qualified to do.
All right, Bharat, for the viewer out there who says, I don't pay attention to the BLS, I'm not sure what it is, and I certainly don't focus on who the commissioner is, why does this pick matter?
Well, I think it matters because I think the NVIDIA story and this seem like different stories, but they're actually one story, which is about when you see economies start to slip away and lose trust, it's because, number one, companies feel like they have to pay tribute to the government in order to do business in that country. And number two, the quality of data starts to disintegrate as people feel like the government has a thumb on the scale to produce favorable outcomes. And my concern would be with this new BLS commissioner, not only are there concerns about his qualifications, and contrast that with the previous commissioner who spent 12 years at the Census Bureau studying labor statistics in a nonpartisan way before getting this job, but what kind of person is willing to step up and take this job after Trump fired the previous person for not producing a jobs report that was up to his standards? You're clearly selecting for the type of person who is at least open to the idea of massaging the data, and there's various ways of doing that, in order to please the leader. And once you start to get that type of concern and that type of perception about the quality of the data coming out of the government, you are quickly down a slippery slope that threatens the thing that makes this country great and our economy strong, which is the rule of law and foreign and domestic investment in our companies and our consumers. And we are really threatening that with all of these steps that Trump is taking.
And of course, an independent central bank is one of the things that makes us so attractive to foreign investment.